Everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Nigel Thomas, all the way in the UK. Nigel, it is great to connect with you. You are the founder of the David to Goliath newsletter, which I have subscribed to and look forward to reading. And it's going to help. We'll get into kind of who it helps from a business perspective. But, I'm a business coach and I work with people all over the globe who are successful but stuck and work with them to get unstuck. And so I always like to start my episodes off talking about a time or a story where you were stuck and how you got unstuck.
Yeah, I mean, I was 26. By the way, thanks for having me here, John. I really appreciate this and appreciate what you're doing for the community. So yeah, time I was stuck, and maybe it's, somewhat generalist from an entrepreneurial standpoint. But look, I come from a background of a family of accountants, very risk-averse mindset. And obviously entrepreneurship, it's about creativity, abundant thinking, risk-taking. And at 26 years old, I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was, John. I had to literally Google it. And I was in the corporate world working for a big construction consultancy called Acom. And just something inherently felt wrong. The people there were having conversations about, the latest Netflix show. And look, I'm no offense to anyone who talks about that stuff and the weather and complaining and gossiping about people. But look, I just knew there was more to life. I knew there was more depth and I could feel my soul withering away. So on one walk home from work, I just said, I'm done with the life of mediocre. And I started getting some clients from Upwork, a freelancing platform. This is 2017, the takeoff of Facebook advertising, the big, supply and demand opportunity. Not many Facebook advertisers, but obviously a lot of users across Facebook and Instagram. So it was really cheap costs. So it was an easy way to get a lot of customers for e-commerce, which is the industry I was focusing on. So with no money in the bank account, I just quit it to the dismay and worry of my parents. And you know what, John? For the first time in my life, I finally felt alive.
Yeah. It's interesting. I remember when I was at a crossroad in my career of, leaving a career and starting my coaching business. And a quote that a buddy of mine called me and shared with me was by Tony Robbins. He said, "Hey, I think this will mean something to you. Success without fulfillment equals failure." And I wasn't fulfilled. I loved what I did, but I wasn't fulfilled, right? So I didn't love it anymore, but conceptually I kind of did. But fulfillment is so important. And I ended up quitting the job and I now have a coaching business that's about almost 9 years old. So I understand what you mean when your soul is out of alignment, right? I felt like my soul was out of alignment. And I needed to find the fulfillment in my career. So I appreciate you sharing that. I do have one question though. When you think of like the one thing, Nigel, that you're like, you're sharing that your soul felt withered, right? Depleted.
Yeah.
What is the one thing to know that you're feeling that? Right? Like there's a bad day and then there's being connected with your soul and what it means to be kind of out of alignment. I remember I read in a book about 25 years ago, Seed of the Soul by Gary Zukav. It said the ideal human being is when the personality ends and the soul begins. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm out of alignment there. I'm out of alignment there. So what's the one thing that somebody can kind of grab onto to understand if it's their soul or just a bad moment?
From a young age, especially in school, we're boxed into certain disciplines. Obviously we learn certain courses, and to fit into different companies and society, we're put in boxes. And this is the opposite of what an entrepreneur is, right? And the thing is that if we actually look back further into, the past of our ancestors, how we got here in the first place, our human existence, we were tribal by nature. I was talking to Jake Carlson Midday Squares about this the other day, because ultimately when we were tribes, you had some people that obviously went and got the food. You had some people who planned out the resources. You had some people that took care of the tribe. And everyone did their little part. And together, the tribe survived. And that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
What's happening is we're trying to box people into things that they're not naturally wired to do. Mm-hmm. So it inherently feels wrong. So that's why when they do these surveys, most people are unhappy with their work, because I kind of err on the caution of the whole burnout thing. I think that most people just aren't doing purposeful work. And when we're boxed into these things, and obviously when our parents, put these different labels on us, which are really, really hard to get rid of, I still have them today. And every time I go home, I feel them. And I've spent so much time, Jon, trying to rewire my brain. But ultimately, this is what it comes down to. Make the little decisions with your head, but make the big decisions in life with your heart.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, and the more you surround yourself with people who empower you for who you are, and humans are, perfectly imperfect. We all have our weaknesses. But if you can focus on your strengths, and if you're weird and wacky, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Your unique abilities can have a massive impact in society, just like our ancestors had a massive impact on the tribe to get us here today.
I think that's so
the little decisions of your head, the big ones of your heart. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's really important. I mean, and getting into your heart can take some time. I was talking to a client today who was saying, I was encouraging them to take a moment of think time. And what I was talking about is find a chair that you can sit in and just think and reflect and process. And they said, but I feel like I'm not doing anything. I said, well, you're actually doing a lot. Statistically, scientifically, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Mm-hmm. And so that's 55 or more thoughts a minute. And so we need to kind of recalibrate and take a moment to actually get back to center, take a minute to get into our hearts. As I just wanted to say, right. It takes a minute. You can't just move from one, one task, one meeting, say, okay, I'm going to be in my heart. I think there's a process that you need to go through to actually kind of slow down, whether you call it meditation, go for a walk, take a couple breaths. But I think it's really, really important. I think community, we've talked a lot about this on the show, as far as what Nigel's saying, not only the importance of getting into your heart, but taking the time, honoring it, respecting it, that it may take a minute or two to actually get there and carve out that time. So no, I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that. I do want to do, I want to do a mini business course with you real quickly. And the mini business course that I want to do with you, Nigel, is, you talked about that your journey of where you, when you were stuck, you were done with being mediocre. And I think a lot of people are in that phase of their life trying to figure out what is that, that small little shift, that 1% movement where they can move from, mediocre to that next percent. And sometimes the difference between mediocre and excellence is a very small sliver. And so what are 3 things that people can do who are feeling mediocre, take their business, their life, whatever it is? This is a little mini business course, take their business to the next level out of mediocrity.
Only 3 things, Jon. Honestly,
3 things today. 3 things today. Yeah.
Have you seen the movie The Dark Knight Rises?
Yes.
Do you remember the part when he's in the prison and he has to get out of the prison?
Vaguely.
Well, basically, for anyone who can't remember, Batman has to get out of a prison to go and save Gotham, right? And he's got to jump across this ledge. And he keeps trying to jump across the ledge holding a rope. And he keeps failing. So he goes back down to the bottom of the prison. One of the prisoners said to him, why don't you jump without the rope? And let the fear of death drive you towards your destination because you believe it's possible. What happens is he gets up on the ledge, everyone's supporting, everyone's chanting. He drops the rope, he makes the jump, and he gets there to the other side, and he goes and saves his city. The reason I'm telling that story is because this is exactly what entrepreneurs, but anyone in life who wants to go and achieve more has to go through. It's the uncertainty. but you've got to take the leap of faith, whether that's quitting your job, whether that's hanging out with new people, whether that's cutting some old friends out that you don't want to hang around with anymore. Ultimately, it's not going to feel good. And jumping and believing and then getting there to the other side, it builds massive, massive conviction. And that's where you learn the most about yourself. My favorite quote, bar none, is from Winston Churchill, which is, one man with conviction will overwhelm 100 who have only opinions. Whether it's sales, whether it's leadership, anything in business, anything in life, if you have deep rooted conviction because you jumped with uncertainty, without the rope, and you got there to the other side, just trust me when I tell you, you'll have such a deep energy that will attract so many people, and you'll just go so far in life. So I kind of encompass quite a few things into that one. The other one that I'll say is standards. Standards are everything. And most people just don't have good standards. And because they're so worried about pleasing other people, they just drop their standards. They don't do what they know they can do. And my advice, and by the way, you're going to piss some people off. I'm telling you here, it's okay to do that. Never, ever let anyone negotiate your own internal standards, because those people that you're worried about their opinions of, when you're about to die on your deathbed, they're not going to be there. You are going to be there. You're going to be the only person in your head when you close your eyes and take that last breath that has to think back and flash back through your life and think, did I make the most of this life? Because imagine if you've got questions of what if, because you didn't live up to those internal standards, now you've got to die of regret. So whatever your pain you're feeling in life right now, it's nothing in comparison to that last breath of regret that you're going to face if you don't improve your standards, listen to yourself, and realize your full potential.
Yeah. Standards are regret. I remember when I was telling you the story earlier about my now company that I have, I had met with a mentor, and as I was leaving, they said, if you do nothing, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very powerful thing to share. What's number 3?
Yeah. Number 3 is, environment. Definitely environment. They actually did a study on, in terms of people's net worth, and the biggest thing that impacts people's net worth. And it's literally where you live, what location you live in. So that tells us, and if you read a book from James Clear called Atomic Habits, which is really good.
One of my favorites.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I'm actually reading it again right now. Yeah. I just took a masterclass.com with him, I took it and I'm reading the book again, but it's a must read. Yeah.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And especially if you apply it but you can apply it to anything in life, right? And ultimately, your environment governs everything. And something that I inherently just don't understand, I think it's because, obviously, again, going back to jumping with the rope, you have to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. But I don't know, people spend so much time, figuring out what car they're going to buy, figuring out where they go on holiday, figuring out what job they want. But no one spends that much time thinking about where they live. Like, they spend a bit of time, but considering how much impact that has on your life, and also who you hang around with, like, if you want to get ahead in life, do this. Audit where you live. Do people, let's say, for example, you want to have more success in business. What's the average net worth of the people in your area? If it's low, get into a different one or figure out a pathway to get there. Audit your friends. I know it might sound ruthless, but I'm telling you, you want the honest, brutal advice if you're going to be successful. A lot of my friends used to go out drinking all the time. And guess what? So was I. So I cut them all off. And I started hanging around with people who are getting afterlife, who don't judge me for not drinking alcohol or doing what I want to do, working all the time. They empower me. So again, audit your friends, audit your environment, and design it. And again, I'll tell you this, it's okay. It's okay to do that. And if anyone tells you it's not okay, Get rid of that person, because you're never going to have success in life if you can't control your environment. It has such a monumental impact. Because the last thing I'll say, and rounding it back to what you said, John, we do have 80,000 thoughts today. Where do you think your thoughts come from? They come from your influences. Where do you think your influences come from? They come from your environment. So if you put yourself, if you're in a room with 5 people every single day that make $10 million a year, just by the sheer fact you're in that room listening to those conversations, the likelihood of you being able to get there 10 times faster, it's the biggest shortcut you can take. Like, really, one of the main only shortcuts, most of them are faults. Designing your environment, auditing everything, and then controlling it and doing what you want and living in a place you want and hanging around the people you want, that's a shortcut in life.
Yeah. So amen to that. And I'm sure people can learn more about all of these in an extension, because you said earlier, only 3 in the David to Goliath newsletter.
Yes. Yeah. I've just actually released the origin story as of the time recording today, where I reveal all the lessons I've learned in entrepreneurship so far, sharing all the skeletons of my closet, and obviously climbing off the canvas of death. And just really the uncut life of an entrepreneur, man. Yeah. You know, it's not easy, but hopefully people learn a few things. Yeah, so I appreciate it.
Good. This was great. This was a great mini business course, Nigel. All right, let's get back to some of the stuff that you were just talking about as far as the origin. You know, you're talking about the origin. Tell us about your origin. You know, success is never a straight line for anybody. It's got its twists and its turns. You know, you released the origin. What is your origin?
Yeah, so for context, people don't know, 3 months ago, I was actually contemplating committing suicide. And the reason that happened is because I lost the person that believed in me most, a woman that actually I built a lot of businesses with, you know, scaled 2 marketing agencies from with zero reputation to 7 figures. And when I met this woman, prior to that, I got bullied a lot in school. You know, I've got eczema. And I still remember, for context of listeners, standing there fully naked in the showers after we played sports. And all the guys used to look and point at me, telling me how I wouldn't amount to anything in life, telling me how ugly I was. And because of my dry skin, they used to call me Krusty the Clown. And I've never felt so humiliated or vulnerable in my entire life, John. And right up until this point, you know, 26, started to make big progress. But I met this woman at 28 years old, and she believed in me like you couldn't imagine. And I never realized just what that one person believing in you unconditionally, what kind of impact that can have on you as a person. So with that self-belief, she made me feel like I could conquer the world, man. And I went on, you know, built 2 marketing agencies. We probably not got enough time to go into everything today, but the last one I was a part of, Alpha Inbound, an e-commerce marketing agency, that when I joined, we were doing 5K a month. And I'd needed some redemption at this point, because the first business that we built, me and this woman, the owner turned out to be a narcissist, and he burned the business into the ground. And I needed someone I could trust. So I found this guy, Josh, who I knew before from a previous business relationship. And we were doing about 5,000 a month at the time. He was fantastic at media buying, fulfilling the service. He wasn't so good at building the business itself, but I saw someone there, when we talk about belief, that needed believing in him, John. He was working at different agencies to supplement his income. And I made a promise, and I put my balls on the line. And I said, Josh, I'm going to get this agency to $100,000 a month. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. I just know with this newfound self-belief, I can take that jump into the unknown without the rope, and I'm going to figure it out. I just don't care what it takes. I'm just going to keep working until I've done it. And fast forward 2 years, you know, a lot of twists and turns along the way. And it took a lot longer than I wanted to. But in September 2023, this year, we blasted through that target. and we hit 113,000 a month in revenue. And from the outside looking in, everything was perfect. You know, I built a following of 42,000 people on LinkedIn. I was speaking on stage in front of 300 people. And, you know, I was getting invited to all these podcasts, and our agency was growing. We'd hired some great people. But on the inside, I was crumbling. And like I said, I was thinking about taking my own life. The relationship that had given me everything fell to pieces. The woman cut me off overnight. She betrayed me. And I went from speaking to someone who believed in me unconditioned, the one person that really understood me, 5 hours a day for 3 years straight, to absolutely nothing, a black hole of emptiness. And it was just such a hard moment. But because I'm a man of my words, and I made this promise to Josh, I gritted down, I bit on my gum shields, and I got the job done. But as soon as that was finished, what got me through when I was contemplating suicide is I was walking around my flat, I still remember, John, in Austin, and I said to myself, if I'm not going to continue for me, I'm going to do this for everyone else who deserves a second chance. Because even though everything turned out to be bad in the end with this woman, I still had the gift of self-belief that she'd given me. And I had that experience. A lot of people don't have that in life. A lot of people, you know, don't feel like they fit in. So I could come back, rise again, and give them that gift of self-belief. And the way that I do it isn't just by talking, it's by documenting my comeback. And that's what David to Goliath is all about. It's about the rise of an underdog. So it's me documenting my journey in public to get to 100,000 subscribers next year of the newsletter, and also interview some of the best leaders of our generation at the same time. And that's what got me through. So as soon as I got the 100,000 a month in revenue, I handed in my notice to Josh at Alpha Inbound. I quit my comfortable job with a 6-figure salary CEO and said, I'm doing it. And I've gone all in. And literally today or yesterday was the first day that I'm full-time David to Goliath. And the comeback's on.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm sorry you had to go through the journey you did, but it sounds like you're helping a lot of people. I do want to say this real quickly. If anybody's listening to this, or if anybody knows anybody who is having suicidal thoughts, there is a National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 988, which I think is I just want to kind of say for the record. You know, just going back for a moment, for people who, and I'm so glad you decided not to take your life, for those people that that resonates with, can you maybe talk a little bit about, you know, the self-talk and how you got yourself out of that?
Yeah, so like I said, it was finding that higher purpose, not doing it for me, doing it for other people. That was really important. But the other thing is, when we talk about, you know, community and surrounding yourself in your environment, I came back to the UK. I had some visa issues, but I also came back to be with my family. And there's a guy that lived next door to me. His name's Dan. And I hadn't connected with him for a while. And I spoke to him, and I just opened up to him because he understood me quite well when we were children. And it turned out that he was at a point in life where he'd had some issues as well, and he wanted to start moving forward. So what we did is we started getting up at 6 a.m. We still do it now 4 times a week. 6 a.m., you know, the piss and rain, freezing cold and dark black. We get up, we go out there for a run without fail, 4 days a week, and just running next to someone else. You're pushing them, they're pushing you, and just going through that together and having that accountability partner and someone that you're opening up with, but you're moving forward and you're stamping out the voice of the victim, the voice that wants you to stay in bed all day, the voice of comfort. And yes, I understand this might sound quite hard hitting. I'm a hard, intense person. I'm not going to apologize for that, because I think that voice of the victim can be all consuming. And it still attacks me every single day, John, but I don't let it rule me. I empower the voice of the champion. And I do that by going running. I do hard things. And step by step, I stamp out that voice of the victim. Because if I'm going to do this comeback and show people where I've come from to where I'm going to go, I'm not one of these people who can jump on and play a character. I actually have to live this. This is not a scripted movie here. This is a real life thing, and I'm living it, and I'm going all in 100%. So my advice is to people is surround yourself with people who are honest with you. You can go through this together. Keep believing, but keep moving, and attack life with attitude. And if someone's had heartbreak, for example, like I had, and they've been betrayed, then use that energy. And long term, probably not the best thing using that dark energy, but sometimes in the moment when you're in a really bad place, just use what you've got. And again, I'm giving you permission to say that's okay.
Yeah.
You need to keep moving, and you need to keep going forward. Because I want to show people that they can fight and they can pull themselves out of that situation. That's really important to me.
There is to connect in those moments, what I'm hearing you say, to a higher purpose and focus, that there is a comeback, even if maybe you can't define it in that moment. But no, what I'm hearing you say is for people to connect to a comeback, even if it's not defined. Do whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You just keep moving, and you will figure it out along the way.
Yeah. Let's do a little mini business life. I want to do a mini life course on a comeback. How to make a comeback, whether it's in business or in your life. Yeah. 3 things to do when you're building your comeback. Number 1.
For the last 50,000 years, John, humans have been communicating with stories. For context, the internet was created in 1983. The internet's amazing. But storytelling, if you think back to anyone listening to your past 5 conversations, I'd be absolutely shocked there wasn't a story being shared. Look at the conversation we've had today. We've shared many stories. That's how we communicate as humans. If you know how to tell a story, then you have such a massive competitive advantage. And you don't need to think of it as, oh, you're manipulating people. Because if you know and study how to storytell, you watch, for example, Steve Jobs when he presented the new iPhone, fantastic storyteller. You look at, there's so many great stories out there. Watching movies, there's so many of them. We all know the greats, right? But here's the thing. Everyone's read all the stories. They've already read all the greats, but they haven't read yours. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's completely unique to you. Yeah. But if you have the skill set of being able to communicate it, it will transform people's lives, because that's the thing that they'll remember. Because what's interesting is I've done a lot of posts on LinkedIn. A lot of them have gone viral. And it's not really the deep storytelling ones. And they've got like 500,000 views or whatever. And it might be some sort of copywriting tip or something like that, or how to boost your posts up on LinkedIn. And no one, a few people repost it and that kind of stuff. Fairly shallow content, right? Even though it might be quite helpful. When I posted a story about how I got my heart broken, didn't get quite as much reach. Probably about 10 times less reach, actually. I had about 25 people reaching out to me with literal essays. That's depth. That's what storytelling does. So when you have that depth with people, that's the most transformative thing, because guess what? That's what brands are. And that's what a personal brand is. So if you're going to make a comeback, make sure you are able to tell a story.
Yeah,
and here's your story. Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to link this to the second thing. Okay. Most people, they spend their life watching movies. Why is that? Because they live their dreams out through those characters. And the reason why they do that is because they can't get uncomfortable enough to be able to do what those characters are doing. Now, some people, a very small minority, they make their life the movie. They take the risks that other people weren't willing to. They put things on the line. They have excitement. They have ups. They have downs. They document the journey. And guess what? They have thousands, if not millions of people tuning in to watch their every step, because instead of watching movies, they make their life the movie.
Yeah.
So do that and watch how many people will join in. And the second thing is that delayed gratification. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It takes time to build trust, even if you're a great communicator. But if you stick with it, if you're authentic to yourself, if you're moving in a certain direction, people test you. You know, I have a lot of people that have been reading my content for 6 months on LinkedIn, didn't say a word. Then they got on a call with me and they commend me for my consistency. It's almost like they're testing you.
Yeah.
That's what so many people do. If you just keep showing up again and again and again and relentlessly keep driving forward, this is my advice to you. Be so goddamn good, it's undeniable that you will be ignored.
Yeah. I love it. Number 3.
I would say that was number 3, but
I thought it was 3 too. I thought it was 3 too. Yeah. So yeah. All right. All right. So we got through them all. That was great, Nigel. You know, I think, you know, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, storytelling, I love the whole idea of storytelling, because that is why we love movies, because it tells a story. We watch series, we watch TV shows. Everything is about story. So I love everything you just shared. Thank you so much. All right. Let's just go back real quickly to your newsletter. David and Goliath. Who's the reader and what are they going to get from it?
Yeah. So again, like I said, when I was younger, you know, I didn't fit into crowds in school. I still don't fit into most crowds. And really, again, I had that one person that believed in me. But if I had more people and more of a support system, maybe I wouldn't have gone through what I went through, right? But obviously it was a blessing in disguise, because I need to go through that pain so I could come back from it to help make sure others aren't. But what I'm trying to say is, if you want a place where you can be yourself, to really be obsessed, and probably as an entrepreneur, that's what it's more aimed at, but other people can join in and just really climb that mountain from David to Goliath. And even if you're an underdog with not much resources, if you've got that power of self-belief, you know, the same belief that Goliath with a slingshot and a few pebbles had to take on a mighty monster, then you should get involved, because we're creating a community that allows you to be who you are and go after your dreams. Really share, you know, the tools and ideas, and documenting my journey, but also giving tidbits of obviously what I've learned along the way, whether that's leadership, whether that's things about sales. You know, I haven't figured everything out. I'm going to get feedback, and I'm going to, you know, make sure it's the most valuable newsletter, or one of the most valuable newsletters around. I'm not doing it to build another newsletter so I can milk people from sponsors. We've got enough of those out there. I am doing this to create a movement of innovators, and this is how I'll sum it up. Steve Jobs once said that it's the people who think they're crazy enough to change the world are the ones that actually do. But what he didn't say, John, is the best ideas are scattered in graveyards all over our lands, because people didn't have the confidence to take that chance.
Yeah.
And David to Goliath makes that chance a choice.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Let's do a quick speed round. A book that's had the biggest impact on you.
You know what's interesting? I actually finished reading a book this morning, and it was absolutely exceptional. And it's called The Motive. Have you heard of it? It's Patrick.
Patrick Lencioni. Yeah.
It's about leadership.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately, again, I don't know if you want me to give a bit of context or not, if we've got time, it's a speed round, but it's about leadership, and it's about if you're actually a good leader or not, or if you're just doing it for like the fame and the ego. Real leaders don't rule with an iron fist. Real leaders sacrifice the most of their people.
The best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
from this woman. She used to tell me, the best gift you can give anyone in life is believing in them. Yeah. But the best person to believe in is yourself.
I love it. Finish this sentence. One way someone can connect with their higher purpose is?
Take risks.
I love it. Nigel, this was a great talk. I'm really grateful to have you on the show. I'm grateful that you sharing your story and all the content. I do this podcast. I'm a business coach. I work with people who are successful but stuck. I get them unstuck. And so what I love about the podcast is one, it's kind of like a mini master's class for me, but I get to have a platform where I can help people get unstuck on a deeper level all over the world. And so I appreciate it. I want to just highlight a couple things you said in community. Some of the highlights for me were finding your higher purpose, accountability, no regret, believe it in yourself. So important. And so I'm really grateful for that. Thanks for everything that you shared today, Nigel. Tell everybody where they can subscribe to the David to Goliath newsletter.
Yes. So if you just go to my LinkedIn, which is Nigel Thomas, just go to LinkedIn, Nigel Thomas, and I've got a link to the newsletter and all the other resources there. I spend most of my time on LinkedIn, and I'll leave you with this because this is a tagline to David to Goliath. Keep dreaming like a giant, but believe and fight for your dreams like a goddamn underdog, baby.
I love it. And you can reach Nigel there. You can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Nigel, stay on for a minute. Thank you a ton. Thank you, community. Appreciate you all. Thanks, Nigel. Appreciate it.